Before I begin, I should probably start to tell you a bit about myself. Otherwise, you're gonna be like, who is this stranger? My name is Linda. I'm a third year computer science student at UBC and currently I'm interning at Defang. And today I will be talking to you about partially my story of how I joined Defang, as well as a hands-on workshop where you can deploy a project onto the cloud. A little bit about Defang as well. Defang is a cloud computing tools technology company that was founded in 2022. It's a small startup started by Leo and two other co-founders and has been growing ever since. We're still small, but we make big technology. Alright, how I got involved with Defang. The reason I came here today to share with you the story is because I consider this to be a rather unconventional story of how I got involved in Defang. It was actually at a hackathon back at SFU 1 year ago from today. Around 1 year ago, I was walking at a booth at a hackathon and there were a bunch of different types of booths of varying sizes. One particular booth was very crowded. You could tell students were bumping shoulder to shoulder. Banners were twice as high as me. There was all this 5 to 10 different merch laid out on the table just like that. You could tell at the table, they even took up 2 tables because it was so big. The average booth took up only 1 table. So what did I do as a curious student who wanted to grow her career and gain connections do in this situation? I walked right over there, straight to the booth right beside it that was completely empty. No one was there, not a student in sight, except for one guy who was sitting and staring at his phone. And you see, he had this look on his face that seemed somewhere in between intensely focused, but also wanted to leave. I walked up to the guy and I started talking to him. We hit it right off, started talking about cloud deployment, and I talked to him. At the back of my mind, I was thinking to myself, man, there's no way I was ever going to use this technology in the hackathon because deployment usually happens at the end of a project development cycle. So only when your project is completed, you deploy it to the cloud. So knowing hackathons, often people don't finish their projects, which is why fast forward to 2 hours, 2 hours before the end of the hackathon, everyone on my team was on 2 hours of sleep. With our half-baked project, we were thinking to ourselves, man, there's no way that we could win any sort of prize, right? Until I remembered at the back of my mind, miraculously, somehow, we were able to get our project deployed with Defang, and even more miraculously was that we won the hackathon. And some year ago, we were able to get our project from local hosts right up onto the cloud with just a single command, Defang Composer. We couldn't believe how straightforward this was. Like, knowing that deploying to the cloud usually takes about 100 different clicks before you get to even a single task being completed on the AWS dashboard. In general, deploying is not easy, but somehow we were able to get it deployed with a link so that we could share our project to everyone in the hackathon. By then, I was able to deploy and meet the deadline, and that was how I was able to deploy. One interesting point after the hackathon was I continued using the project for my own personal projects. I applied Defang Compose up to all 5 of my different personal projects, and I found it to be a rather useful tool. So I also interacted with the Discord channel that they had at the time, and there was a guy who one day asked, oh, how can I apply for a job at Defang? Since Defang was such a small startup, there was no job portal, no job searching titles on Indeed or whatsoever. It was completely blank if you searched up Defang job postings, right? So when this guy asked, how can I apply for a job on the Discord channel? That was a pivotal moment for me. I was able to send my resume to their email, and that's how I got here today. But if it weren't for that random guy on Discord, I would not be here today. So shout out to that random guy, and also shout out to the random guy at the booth or who was staring at his phone, Leo. Yeah, so that's a little story time of how I got involved at Defang. I'm going to start off with just a little bit of explaining on deployment basics, brief intro to Defang, and then we're going to get into the actual activity where you can deploy with Defang. Alright, going on to deployment basics. I will start off by asking, who here has deployed something before? Okay. Who here has deployed a Python project before? Okay, cool. I guess I'll just sit through this part. What is deployment? Deployment is having your project on your local host laptop. So let's say you're developing a project on VS Code and you want to share it with your friends, but your friend doesn't have the same project on GitHub. How would you do that? You would deploy your project to the cloud. By deploying your project to the cloud, you can have a deployed link that you can share with anyone on the web, regardless of where they are, as long as they have the link. And why should you deploy? The first reason you should deploy is that you can show off your app to anyone on the internet. The second reason you should deploy is all good apps eventually get on the internet. So why not give it a shot? Think Facebook, Instagram, Google it. They all are on the internet. If you want to eventually scale your app, definitely gotta deploy. And scaling on the cloud is going to be one option that you will have once you deploy your app. The third reason you should deploy is because you can have custom domains, such as coolexample.com. But deploying is hard. Clicking through 100 plus buttons for a single task on AWS dashboard, GCP, excuse me, I don't got time for that. There's endless menus, and plus, if you miss one step out of the 40 different steps it takes where you're going through all of that, you might need to start over. So, if you take a look on this image here, you can easily see that AWS alone has too many services to count. I tried to give an estimate, and I just did. I believe their instruction manual is also 164 pages long, so good luck reading that. Thankfully, there's an easier way with Defang. So, what is Defang? Defang helps you deploy your app easily from Docker Compose to the cloud. So, on the left here, you can see is, who can tell me what this logo is? Django. Django. Who can tell me what this logo is? Maybe it's a little hard to see. Yeah, any guesses?
Is it next?
Yeah, next. How about this one?
JavaScript.
JavaScript? Yeah, JavaScript next year. So here, this part on the left represents all of these different languages and frameworks. All of them. Not limited to just these three, but all of them. And then, what does this image on the right show?
AWS.
Which stands for
Amazon.
Amazon Web Services. Anyone know what this one?
Google Cloud.
Okay. Close. Google Cloud Platform, GCP. And how about this almost half-faded icon on there? Did I hear something? Yes.
Something.
Yeah.
DigitalOcean.
Yes, DigitalOcean. You got it. So that's DigitalOcean. What's on the right represents all of these different cloud platforms. Cloud provider platforms which have a bunch of remote servers that can store your app on the cloud. So what does Defang do? What is this arrow in the middle?
Deploy.
Yeah, deploy. You got it right. It's not a logo. It's deploy. Literally just deploy. But that's where Defang comes in. So actually, although it's like very abstract, take a look at our logo here. It's pointing up, right? This is like our logo pointed sideways. So that's the message that we're trying to get at here. Well, the point is that Defang is the middleman between your app, which is locally on your project, and then the cloud provider itself. But we don't replace the cloud provider. We are just a tool that easily takes you from here to here, onto here. But how do we do this? Well, there's one special thing about Defang that we do. Notice this word in the middle, Docker Compose. Has anyone used Docker Compose before? Maybe some personally. So what Defang does is once you define your app in a Docker Compose file, you can easily see here you have like services, have a service called web, a service called Reddit. So you can define your application in a file called compose.yaml, Docker file, and we basically take your project and map it onto this description here, and then we allocate the resources for your app onto the cloud. So let's say I need a Redis service. So Redis is like a caching database kind of service, and we need that for our app. Locally, we can run it fine, but on the cloud, we're going to need a service for that. So if we write this down in this file here, and then we do defang compose up, defang will help you provision the resources for that file, basically mapping it onto a part in the cloud, right? So in doing this, we are able to take all the parts of our app and define it into Docker Compose file, and then ship it to the cloud where you can easily manage it afterward in your own cloud account, right? So that's basically what Defang is for. We're a tool that can deploy any app to your favorite cloud with a single command. Alright, hopefully you guys have gotten to the point here. So what is the primary purpose of Defang? Who here thinks they know the answer? Please raise your hand. There's a prize.
Yes, if you answer correctly, you get to pick
At
a
the-
swag from
at
the
the
snack
back.
table.
What did I do?
Yeah, different Docker
Did you say
components to the
me?
cloud.
Perfect. You get a
Oh,
t-shirt.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't worry. Which cloud providers does Defang currently support? First answer, and you cannot be the same person. Put your hands up if you think you know the answer. Yes.
Thank you.
C? Did you say C?
Yeah.
Yes. You got C. I also have another prize for you. Okay, which languages does Defang support? Put your hands up if you think you know the answer. And you haven't gotten the prize. Yes, in the back. A? Yeah, correct. We got it. Congratulations. Finally, we should use Defang. Put your hand up if you think you know the answer. This is the dress. All of the above. You are correct. However, I do not have any more t-shirts. So you will get Alright. Thank you so much for participating in that little knowledge check. Now it's time for the interactive. Creating Python